Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much for joining me here. Hope you're having a phenomenal day like we are. I say we as a collective community here because we took some solid profits here on Ethereum. Nice long there, 31%, 41 for Doge, 31% if you round up for Bitcoin, and of course Crowcoin 22%. Those are some longs we took within the last 3 to 5 days. Specifically, 2 of them we took yesterday after analyzing the charts. And the good news here is, folks, is that crypto market capitalization is going up. We can see money's flowing away from stable coins here and essentially going into altcoins as Bitcoin dominance continues to pull back. So these are all very, very good signs. So hopefully we can break this ascending trend here for Bitcoin dominance and be back on track. But what we're going to look at here today is some important factors here. First of all, kind of comparing the coins that we analyze here in these videos, specifically the outliers. Ethereum is one of those. I talked about that yesterday. SUI broke through its resistance, potential retest there. If we see that, good consideration for a long. And of course, XRP and Solana kind of lagging behind, but they are looking like they have some nice bullish patterns. We'll discuss that. Furthermore, too, we want to touch on the backend data here. We got an ETF net inflow here for a change. This is awesome stuff. Good shift in momentum. So excellent start to the week here, or well, I guess remainder of the week rather. We're tailing off, trailing into tomorrow's close of ETF and futures. So let's take a look here, of course, really quick to firstly note, if you are new to the channel, cryptocash.tech is the site, link down below. I deeply appreciate it. Hit the like button, comment below. If you get a chance, let me know what are your thoughts on this coin, and maybe, hey, how long have you been watching the channel for? We got some people, some OGs have been watching for over 4 years now. It's been awesome. Anyways, ETF outflow or inflow. Let's talk about this here first. And the quick perspective here is if we look at the macro perspective, generally speaking, when we have a large amount of ETF outflow, which we saw last couple of weeks, it usually returns fire with a pretty strong influx of ETF inflow. So I'm speculating at this point we're in pretty good shape here to see a continuation higher as it starts to taper off, and that's very, very good for crypto. Specifically, we can see here Ethereum is starting to kind of trail in. Those are very, very good signs. We'll talk more about that, but Ethereum right now kind of front-running altcoins is a super good sign for altcoin season. Now, speaking of altcoin season, let's take a quick look at the index and kind of recognize here, the longer we spend in this 30 range is better, honestly. It's building a good foundation. We can also recognize too with Bitcoin kind of being range bound. Once we break our range, we're probably going to see some altcoins start to flourish. As we can see here, we're kind of breaching right into this altcoin season index with 1.5 trillion in market cap. That is fantastic. That's super high. That's something we want to see. And as that continues to increase, we're going to see market capitalization from Bitcoin start to decrease as Bitcoin dominance effectively pulls back. But we need money in stable coins to continue to come into altcoins, which is what we're seeing so far. So all in all, looking very good here and solid. And just to touch on the fear and greed index too, this is an important factor. Maintaining the 50 to 60 range is excellent. We like to see when the price action goes sideways and the fear and greed index continues to taper off, which we're seeing here. It was once at somewhere in the almost 70 just a couple of weeks ago. All right. So too much greed causes the price action to stall out. So we want to make sure that we get we continue to see that kind of continue to move sideways. Let's go ahead and take a look at some backend data here first and kind of get that the important foundation of where we're at with Bitcoin, and we can move on. So we talked about this previously, 115,300 is that key level resistance that needed to be broken in order for us to continue much higher. Well, we've broken, and now we could be on the verge of seeing a bullish back to that level, but I have a feeling we're going to continue higher here. We are starting to see average top traders are leveraging more into longs versus shorts. We can also see that there's more shorts basically, or more importantly, more asks than bids. And this is usually a good sign of weakness, especially if you can combine that with liquidation delta remaining high. Now, this isn't super significant. Bitcoin's been much higher, but we're at 7 billion liquidation long delta, telling us we have way more longs than shorts in the market right now. And that increases the sentiment and continuation potential higher. We've also broken through this threshold here of 116,000. This is our local point of control, essentially. That lets us know that we're in better shape here. Keep in mind, this is the monthly point of control here, or open interest range. I like to kind of look at the larger timeframes for that. But when we look at liquidation, there's a tremendous amount of potential for further upside here. 117 is probably the most immediate area. Keep in mind, this is the last 7 days. This is the weekly liquidation. So we can see 117 upwards of 120 or 119.6 as a close approximate there. We're looking at basically 117 to 119 is that range of upper liquidation. So I think we're probably more likely to continue higher to see that sweep. We got some really heavy concentrations here at 117. I think they're probably sweating some bullets right now. So that is good. One other thing that's also good too, I saw this earlier, is we have more true retail longs, or sorry, not more, we have less rather. That's actually good because we have more open interest. We are at 65%. So when this percentile stays high, when we have more open interest versus actual longs in the market, it implies a lot more sustainability. It's a weird, strange little thing to kind of understand, but I've been looking at it for days, well, every single day for the last few years, and I can tell you that open interest remaining high, that's probably the most important foundational thing we want to see, because that implies that we have sustainability and money's flowing in, market capitalization is going up, right? We can kind of see that reflected on certain charts. So let's look at the daily time frame here for Bitcoin. Kind of work our way down and see where we're at. Not much has changed here since yesterday. However, we're testing our descending trend and or the 20-day SMA. So this is one of those bull flag type of patterns here that typically does break to the upside in most cases, based on the simple fact that we're continuing to establish lower highs and lower lows, which I know seems contradictory. That seems like a bearish type of trend, right? The truth is it is, and we want to respect the fact that we may not break through this descending trend. However, once we do, the price action typically starts to run, and that in combination with liquidation long delta remaining high, those are very, very good combinations. Those are things you want to look for. So to me personally, it seems like further upside is much more probable at this point. Do I want to take a long on 116,600? Probably not. I mean, I'm glad with we're happy with our position at 113K, but once more, hindsight's 2020, of course, and I totally get it if you're trying to figure out, should I take a long or a short right now? Well, let's go ahead and see if that's even a feasibility here. First of all, we're back up over 50 on the RSI, and we're above, for the moment, today's candlestick hasn't closed yet, but we're testing and or breaking that descending type of trend based on the moving average. Now, this isn't everything, but if you look in its history, the price usually stays above when we are above the moving average, and the inverse applies as well when we're below, okay? So for the most part here at this point, we are seeing a shift in momentum, a strong likelihood of further upside. Stochastic swinging up, we saw that nice bounce off of that 20 range for the money flow index. We discussed that a couple of days ago. I think it was on Monday or Tuesday. And the simple way to understand it here is that we're starting to see a nice shift in bullish momentum here, where a lot of late shorts got trapped, and this could very well, once again, as I mentioned previously, be somewhat of a trap here, where we've got this consolidation, manipulation, and we may see a rip to the upside here with a expansive wave here for a power of 3 trade setup. If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about there, that is available in our community here, of course. If you don't know, we have an education section, chart pattern section in our Discord, and this kind of helps explain what happens in these situations. So that's probably what's happening right now in the overall sense. It's way too early to tell. You almost always know it when it's done. That's the problem with patterns and or those type of situations. But for the most part, don't trade patterns exclusively. But the key takeaway here is we have bullish momentum leading into a bullish type of pattern. So the likelihood of further upside, I would say, is at least 60%, maybe even 70% probability of further upside. Now, in these situations, the safer trader, which I generally am, will wait for a bullish backtest of the previous resistance, right? So 115,300. That was a significant point of contention recently. We can also see it was also a significant amount of support previously as well. So once more, previous support turned resistance, turned into support again. It's a very, very common occurrence in trading, okay? And if you're not familiar with why that happens, it's more of a psychological effect where people start shifting their mentality on it being a good value or not at that level. Right now, people wish they'd got in at 115,300. They see that again, they're gonna buy that dip, the price goes up. By the way, we also have a fair value gap there too. So tremendous amount of incentive to consider a long in that range if we see it. If not, we may actually see the price just continue higher without recourse. But the general consensus here is we're above all moving averages, and that's a very positive sign. Okay, so there's a lot more statistical favorability for Bitcoin to go higher. Same thing here as well with Ethereum too. However, majority of this upper liquidation level that we identified yesterday has been fully swept. So we're just going to go ahead and remove that. We do have a fair value gap here. Look at how perfect this is. Fair value gap, just just right at the bottom end of that top here at 37.25 from yesterday. So, or actually no, I guess that was more so Monday's high. So Monday's high should be retested as a new low here if we get the price to pull back. There's also a fair value gap there, of course, and that might be a good consideration for a long in that range. So we took our long at like, I think 36.90 if I'm not mistaken, just leading into that resistance, mainly because we had a lot of momentum leading into it. And obviously if you saw my video from yesterday, you'll know why we took that long. So let's take a look here at altcoins really quick, starting with Bitcoin's, Ethereum's open interest. And this is part of the reason why I felt confident taking a long in the $3,600 range, mainly because we see 35.60 and 36.30. Essentially a low average of 3,600 for open interest. If you're not familiar, open interest is just kind of an area in which people are the most enthused about opening positions, and that if the price comes to that level, oftentimes you see them try to protect their long position by adding to their position. So in essence, it's considered to be a support, right? So that's heavy support there. We also had a shift in momentum here too as well, with liquidation short delta effectively breaking even. And generally speaking, when you see that there's just as many longs as shorts in the market and you're retesting a resistance, oftentimes you'll see that break, especially if Bitcoin's performing well, which it was. Taking a look here at liquidation. On the left-hand side, we can see here, 3,800 is that upper area of liquidation. So all is well and good here for Ethereum. It swept that upper area. There's a little bit left upwards of 4,000, but to me, it seems more sensible to wait for the price to pull back to 37.50-ish, right in that range, for the next leg up if you're going to be a little more conservative. We also see we were at an overextension too, so we've hit a 9 on TD sequential, effectively telling us we have been moving for 36 hours in the same direction without recourse. So generally speaking, you're going to see pullbacks occur at that state. Oftentimes, you'll see 36-hour or 72-hour continuations. So we might see another leg up here soon, but I think it would make more sense for the price to pull back a little bit based on that sentiment. But it all depends on Bitcoin. If Bitcoin keeps going up, Ethereum's gonna try to muscle through. All right, let's go ahead and take a look here at Solana. Let's go ahead and start with the backend data here and recognize that we got a lot of open interest at 168. Now that we're above that, we can presume that'll be the new support level for us. So moving forward, as we continue to break this descending trend line, the likelihood of further upside is higher because we're consolidating and or potentially retesting our previous high as a new low. Furthermore, liquidation long delta is at about 1 billion. While that's not substantial or super substantial, it's still a good number. Just note there's only a little bit of liquidation left, upwards of 175. So we may see a quick wick up there and a pullback. Keep in mind on the charts, I have red on the charts here, essentially just kind of giving us indication that that's a resistance level, resistance zone. So we'll just go ahead and keep an eye on that. So if you're not familiar, generally red implies resistance and green is support. So I'll make sure that's updated on our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord if you're not familiar. My playout charts are all available here for you. Oh, furthermore, too, make sure you check this out, too. This goes for current community members and new and existing ones. We got deposit reward bonus as well as first trading rewards for BitUnix. So be sure to check them out. They're an awesome exchange. No KYC or VPN required. We use them consistently. Let's take a quick look here at the daily time frame for Solana. And what we want to recognize here is that we're starting to retest, and distinct probability we do see further upside here, just based on the simple fact that we continue to retest this level of 168 to 170. And I think if Bitcoin continues to maintain its range and or go higher, we'll see further upside. Now, granted, volume isn't super high on this coin, so that's something you want to be mindful of. We're starting to see early signs here of potential trend reversal. Now, this is early signs. They don't mean that they're confirmed yet, but we keep retesting this resistance level. We're almost past 50 on the RSI on the daily, with stochastic swinging up, and then we take a look at the 4-hour time frame. I'm willing to guess, which we are, maintaining above 50 on the RSI too. That's a good signs. However, there are some divergences here. Now, this isn't something you want to attach yourself to, but as the money flow index continues to pull back, the more weakness we see in the coin, right? So that just kind of implies that there's more potential for pullback based on that sentiment, as well as the fact that we're also at an overextended state here. We've been moving once again for 36 hours without correction, and we're also testing our descending trend, which doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot in all cases, but if you combine that with a lot of other kind of weakness patterns that we're seeing here for this coin, I would not expect Solana to run to the upside. I think we're more likely to pull back here short term before the next leg up. So if you're interested in a long, 168 seems practical at this point. It's more of a safer consideration, but I'm not really a big fan of trading these type of situations. Once more, it's just not enough confirming factors. Too many conflicting factors, and if you're not quite sure, don't sit here and try to convince yourself you're going to take a trade because, ooh, I love this coin. That's not the reason to do it. Oh, XRP, $1,000. I'm going to see that tomorrow. Yeah. Anyways, that conversation for another day, but we were going, I saw some people talking about how ridiculous those XRP idiots are. Mostly the influencers, not necessarily the consumers, but you are kind of an idiot if you are believing that you're going to see, trillions and trillions of dollars in market capitalization for XRP. It's already got a huge market cap. Anyways, conversation for another day. We'll cover XRP in a minute. No hate on that coin at all. It's just the sentiment is just absolutely ridiculous. So let's take a look here at the daily time frame here for SUI. In fact, let's actually, before we do so, let's look at the back end. We want to make sure to kind of get that foundation recognized. And I need to be clear with you folks here. We got a tremendous amount of resistance in the $4 to $4.20 range. Okay, so enjoy ride the coattails here. Enjoy the price going up here for SUI. But there's going to be a lot of exit liquidity there. Open interest above the price generally reflects resistance. We do also have liquidation long delta shifting gears. This is good. It's not a tremendous amount for this coin, pretty low all things considered, but the truth is people are taking more longs than shorts at the moment. We take a look here. This is the 1 month. Let's actually look at the last, because we already know that there's a significant amount of liquidation down below the price action, down as low as $3 for the monthly. But if we look at the larger time frames, we can kind of recognize here that there's not too much, or sorry, this is the smaller time frames. This is last 1 week's worth of liquidation. On the left-hand side, we can see 380 to 390 is that last little pocket left. Once more, heavier concentrations around 420. And if you're not familiar too, liquidation levels, these are just areas where people have stop losses and or liquidation events that can occur. So all that being said, if we take a look at that, there's a significant amount upwards at $4 to $4.20, but locally here, not a whole heck of a lot left. So the whales have less incentive to push the price action higher on this pump, which basically tells us they're more likely to pull the price action down. I'm speculating we're going to see a retest of this local support, which was our previous resistance level. Let's talk about that here. First of all, daily time frame, we're under the 20-day SMA above the 50, generally a good place to be. That's a good consolidation range. We're also seeing a shift in momentum here, breaking above 50 with our moving average right there at the price action, as well as money flow index increasing. High MFI generally implies sustainability. 4-hour time frame, we can respect here the fact that we saw a pretty significant continuation. So with the money flow index being above the price action, the likelihood of further upside is higher. It basically tells us there's more money flowing in and people still have the consensus that this price is still a good value and they're going to want to buy. So I'm speculating now that we've broken that resistance, we may not actually see this retest, the 363. We'll probably see the price action go higher. That's just a thought process there. Because again, SUI for the most part is kind of a sporadic coin. It continues, when it goes up fast. So now that we've broken that resistance, you could be sitting out on the porch there waiting for this guy to pull back, and it never does. But inevitability is a thing here in trading, and I think at some point we'll probably see 363 retested. Between now and then, this coin has a lot of bullish continuation potential, so you're more likely going to find success taking a long than you are going to take a short right now. Okay, and to quickly note on this too here as well, this little comparative, I kind of provide a comparative analysis on our Twitter, Telegram, and Discord, just daily, because these are the coins I cover consistently. We can see Bitcoin broke its resistance over here. So Ethereum did the same thing, but bullishly backtested that 3,600. That's half the reason why we took a long. And then we can also see here Solana kind of just hanging out there, not doing too much, moving pretty inconsistent. But SUI, now that we broke this resistance level, better case scenario 363, but I think we're probably going to go further up. XRP is also kind of limping in here, not doing a whole hell of a lot. Anyways, that's kind of the concept there. SUI, I would say SUI and ETH are the two front runners right now. Let's take a look here at Ethereum and kind of see take a look at XRP, see what's going on. Let's round this out here for you. All right, so taking a look at XRP, we can recognize this is another reason why we have a long position averaged between $2.90 and $3. Future reference, if you're part of my community, you need to pay attention to these here. I have trade alerts that provide you with consistent updates as to why I take my trades, right? And if you can see here, XRP is one of those. We have a lot of liquidation that's between 310 and 320, heavy amount of support at 290, and our TP target for our long is in the 310 to 320 range. So while we haven't hit that target, we hit 4 out of 5 of our targets here recently. The key takeaway here is that open interest is specifically large at 293. Therefore, reinforces supports, and we're also seeing a secondary accumulation at about $3 even. So 293 and $3 are good considerations for longs on this coin. Liquidation delta has shifted bullish, of course, and if we see here, there's that heavy concentration of liquidation between 310 and 320. Okay, really heavy, and that's incentive for the whales to push the price action higher there, because a lot of people are going to have a bad day when that happens. And the reason why liquidation is so juicy for whales is because the price starts to move really fast when it hits those ranges, because people are forced out of their positions, and in turn shorts are closed, longs open up, and there's more availability for the coin to go higher and faster. So that's kind of the concept there. Let's look at the daily, wrap this up here for you. Not much here really telling us we're like super bullish. We're in between all moving averages, at least the two important ones there. We are over 50 on the RSI, maintaining that, which is fantastic. That's a good sign. This is generally something I like to look for. It's not a guarantee, of course, but now that we've bounced off 20 on the MFI, we see a lot more sustainability and the likelihood of further upside from here. Once again, it's a macro perspective. It moves a little slower, so you may not see those moves right away, but we can see a bullish type of flag pattern here. I discussed this yesterday, and keep in mind the price action didn't break out because of the bullish flag pattern. It didn't break out because some influencer told you it's going to do so as well. It broke out simply because Bitcoin did, and XRP is moving consistent with Bitcoin right now, so that's really the concept. Half the reason why I take along with XRP oftentimes is because I have a good grasp on what Bitcoin is going to be doing, and that's just the concept there. So anyways, no shade to anyone else who's analyzing XRP. It is what it is. It's a funky coin here in a lot of ways as far as price action is concerned, but is maintaining the $3 range very well. And that's a simple way to understand it. It also moves consistent in a lot of ways with Bitcoin outside of some fundamental catalysts that occur occasionally, okay? All that being said, we're in a point here right now where we got our 0.65, 0.618, our golden pocket above the price at that 310. That reinforces resistance as well as the liquidation that we see above the price. And if we look at the 4 hour though, we have shifted bullish here in a lot of ways. We are now maintaining above all moving averages and our point of control here locally at $3. Once more, our macro point of control and open interest range at 293. So those are all fantastic situations that you generally want to take a long into and you don't want to short against. So don't be one of those fools that's just trying to short the market right now because things feel like it's overextended. Overextension means very little. While we could see a pullback here soon, you might get lucky on that. At this point, statistically, we're more favorable to go up than down on a majority of all these coins we've already talked about. Okay, so that's kind of the concept there. That will change, of course, here in a couple of days. So you never truly know, but at this point, enjoy it while we got it. And if we are green leading into the weekend, we may want to expect some kind of a pullback over the weekend. It's pretty consistent when we have a green weeks Monday through Friday, right? All right, that's kind of where we're at there. Hope that made sense. I described it correctly. Thanks again for being a phenomenal part of my life here. Deeply appreciate all the wonderful comments. Things are starting to pick up a little bit more, and I'm grateful of it too. So appreciate y'all. Hope you have a good rest of your day. We'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself out there. Bye-bye.